Hi, it's Sandy Parker, and welcome to Crafting for Almost Everyone. Today is day 6 of our 7 days of making easy Christmas cards. I hope you've been having fun, because I sure have, and we've only got a couple left. I have been getting requests to maybe extend it, and we'll think about it, because right now Rich is kind of crying a little bit, whimpering, wanting to run away fast, because I'm keeping him really, really busy, but we'll see if we can talk him into it. So I hope you'll stay tuned. Today, what we're going to be doing is something involving gel pens. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to stamp our image, which is going to be a Christmas tree, and it's another seriously old set. This one is 2004. It's called Solemn Stillness, and it's about a tree. So I'm going to stamp it's a 2-layer stamp set. Yeah, 2-layer tree stamp set, and I had to take it off of the blocks because I couldn't get enough ink on this. It just didn't want to give me the ink I wanted, so I figured I would just ink it and ink it and ink it until finally I have the right amount of ink that I want. So we're just going to do it a couple more times until I'm happy. I think we're going to go with that for our first layer. Now, if you've never had the old Stampin' Up! Wooden stamps, then you probably have never tried to line up acrylic stamps. And they can be a little bit tricky to do that with. And the easiest way to do it is to get a piece of acetate, a clear piece of plastic, if you didn't know what acetate was, because some people don't, especially those of you who don't speak English. You might not know what it is. Anyway, we're just going to put a piece of acetate over that. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to put my magnet on the acetate, so hopefully it doesn't move. And I'm probably going to need another one because I don't want it to move at all. So we'll just keep this where we want it. Alright, it still wants to move. Boy, this thing is tricky. Alright, we're going to put it right, I don't know, let's put it right there. Hopefully it won't move. So what you do to see if you have it in the right place, you're going to put the door on it like you normally would. And this time, because I have the acetate there, I'm going to stamp it, and I'm going to stamp it with a different color just for the being able to see it. So I'm going to use a red ink just again so we can see what we're doing. The green that I used was Always Artichoke, and that's a Stampin' Up! Ink. And then you can kind of see if you have it in the right spot or not. And I do think it's pretty close. I don't know if you can see the red, but there's the star on top, and there's all the swirls that go around it. And I'm going to be doing this with silver embossing powder, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal if it's off a little bit. I'm going to put that back in the corner like that, and I'm going to clean off my stamp because I don't want it to be red, as we know. Now I'm going to get my clear embossing powder. Let me get my little pouch and smack around my tree a little bit. So let's ink this up. The size of our paper that we're using is 5.5 tall by 4.5 inches across. It's what they call an A2 size card, in case you didn't know. I have some scrap paper here for underneath my silver embossing powder. We're going to make sure that this really stands out, and the way we're going to do that is by using the gel pens. I think gel pens can make a big difference in a card, and we're going to prove that today. Look, I got some red on there. Ugh. How do I do these things? I don't even know. We'll heat up our tool and we'll be ready to roll. Okay, that looks good. and I made a sentiment. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it or not, but I made this season's greeting and I used some of the gel pen to make some dashes on it. Haven't decided about that yet. I want this card to be very simple and easy, but I want to make it have a lot of, I think the word is pow. We're going with that word. So now we're going to do some of our stitching, and I thought I would do some white stitching, maybe some silver stitching, and some gold stitching. The white I think stands out best. I did do a little of the silver on this. I don't know if you can see that. It almost makes it look like it's not even straight, so I don't know if I'm going to use that or not, but I am going to be doing it on my tree, and the easiest way for me to do it, I'll show you the kind of the Sandy system, and that is what I found was if I have a straight edge, like a piece of paper, and this is just a scrap piece. Let me see if I have a longer one that might work better. Okay, so I take a piece of any kind of scrap paper, but it has to be long enough that you can use it as kind of a ruler almost. So I'm going to just hold it up to the edge. Hopefully you can see this. And the first thing I'm going to use is silver because I don't know if I'm going to change my mind on that. And I'm going to start, I'm going to start here and I'm going to make dots and dashes. Ooh. Keep in mind that the piece is lined up on the right side with the edge of the card, so that's going to hold it so that my lines are straight. I'm not good at doing straight lines. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a straight line kind of girl. That doesn't want to make a big mark there. Okay. I'm going to put my same piece over here, straight on the edge, and I'm better doing things kind of on an angle since I'm left-handed. I don't know why that is, but that's my story and I'm sticking to it. I'm just going to run these lines. Okay, so that's our silver. Now I'm going to go in a little bit more and do a white because I want to make sure I have some white in there. I think the white will make it offset more. Now this time we're going to go with the gold. And when we do the gold, I'm going to do more dots than 2 dots and a dash. White line. I think I'm going to do another white line around the outside, only this time I think I'm going to do the white more dots than dashes. So I decided I would go back over my lines, and so I did. And what I realized was my gold pen wasn't really working well, so I switched over this Uniball, and my white pen is from Reminsce. I think that's how you say it. Reminisce. And then the other pens I used were no names, and clearly the no names did not do a great job on making colors that showed up. So I'll just show you one more time on the edges, if I can get the lid off, so you can see that it just didn't, you have to really go over it and over it if you want to get a line that shows up. So that's what I did with all of them, is played with them so you could see them. I think I like it. Okay, now I stamped out my season's greeting, and I thought what I would do is put it on a silver layer. The silver layer might be too tall. I think I'm going to have to cut that down a little bit, just a little bit. Then what I want to do, I think I'm going to do notches at least on one end, maybe on both ends. So let me get my scissors. I'm going to cut the notches on this end first, on the left end. You're going to cut into the center like that, and then like that on from both sides. You're just going to cut up like that. I don't like that part. If you haven't gone to my Facebook or my blog and seen the picture of the deer that was in our backyard, he was an 8-point buck, and he's beautiful, and we feed them, and so they come every year, and this is the first year that we've had a buck in our, like, kind of in, just hanging out before dark so that we could get a photo of him. We saw one a couple years ago that was really beautiful. I think he was the biggest buck I'd ever seen. I think he was probably, like, we thought we could see at least 14 points. He was beautiful. And every time we hear a gun go off, we're like, oh, I hope it's not our deer. Like we own it. Anyway, I'm really, really hoping that he lasts the season and makes it to have more babies and have more deer so that we can feed them. Because you know how that goes. We want to feed as many as we can. In case you wondered how much food that is, we buy a ton of corn from a farmer that we know. And I'm not making that up, a ton. It's not like Sandy just said she buys a ton. It's actually 10 bags of 200 pounds each bag. We like to make sure our deer don't go hungry, and we've only had a few years where we've had to go out and buy more. And then when we do that, we buy the loose corn that you get at like a Tractor Supply or someplace like that. I don't recommend that though, because deer are really good at hoovering up a lot of food. So if it's not on the cob and they don't have to work at it, they can eat it really fast. So they'll go through a 50-pound bag in, I don't know, I'm just making this up, 5 minutes. It's really fast. But I want them to be fed, and when I was a kid, my dad always told me the reason that we hunt is because, number one, he liked the meat. I could never eat the meat, but he liked it, and so did my mom. And so he said the reason that they hunt, 2 reasons. One is for the food, and the second is because there are too many deer, and they overpopulate, and they'd end up dying of starvation. And as soon as he said that when I was a kid, I was like, oh no, that's not happening at my house. So Rich and I have always fed our deer. And if you are thinking about feeding deer, don't start it unless you decide you're going to continue to do it, because once they know that that's a food source, they rely on it every year, and they will keep coming back to their food source because they know where it's coming from. And you'll see them returning every year, and I don't want them to ever come here and not find some food for them. So, and I think I'm going to do a little bit of like stitching around the season's greetings too, because why not? So here it is. It's finished. Oh, and I stamped my envelope with 2 peg stamps. It says one peg stamp in 2 places. Happy Holidays. See, it's at the flap. When you close it down, it'll be face up. And I made my own envelope to match. So that's what it looks like. I hope you enjoyed this, that you give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Please tell your friends about me on social media because you know I love that. And don't forget, tomorrow, day 7. See you then. Bye-bye.